What's up, guys? Today we're gonna start off a new series of kind of like a battle royale type of tutorial. But yeah, let's see where it goes. So we're gonna create a sprite, name it player, and what we're gonna do is we are first gonna create some variables. Now what's important is I actually usually made the player's position variable, my x and my y, in for the sprite only type of variable. But this time you're gonna select for all sprites, and then you're gonna name it player X and click OK, and you're gonna just create another one that actually says player Y. Now, obviously, if it's gonna be a battle royale, scrolling battle royale type of game, we'll need a scroll X variable for all sprites and scroll Y variable for all sprites. Now that's all variables you need for now for the player. And what you're going to do is when green flag is clicked, broadcast setup. So that was very simple. So it's just going to broadcast setup when the game starts. Well, obviously we're not going to leave the setup there when we just go on, but we're just going to leave it there for now because we don't have anything else. And then you're going to get when I receive setup. You're gonna go to variables, set player X, player Y to 0. Obviously, it could be random, but yeah. And you have to set the scroll X and Y to 0 also. Now what you're gonna do is go to control, get a repeat until loop for your game running system. And then what you're gonna do is get another broadcast, and you can name that player movement. So that's pretty nice. So player movement. We're going to put that in, and we're going to get when I receive player movement, we're going to make a block. We're going to name it player movement. And you're going to select run without screen refresh, number input of speed. And you're going to bring that down. So that's pretty good. I'm going to leave it like that. And what you're going to do is when I receive player movement, we're going to do player movement, and you input your speed there. I'll put 4, which is one of the most basic things. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and draw our costumes. You're going to name this something like 0, and then you're going to draw your most basic idol costume, which I'm going to make it really simple. So I'm going to kind of make it like that. I'm going to make this 30 by 30 and give him some arms so he could grab some guns. So arm number 1 and arm number 2. And I'm going to go ahead give him a gun. But before that, let's line up our arms properly. So what I'm going to do for my gun is I'm going to make kind of like that. I'm going to draw a square here. And I'm going to edit it just a little bit so it actually kind of looks better. So that'll actually do it. And now what you want to do is add just a little bit more detail on your gun, kind of like that. And that's going to do it. So you're going to duplicate this costume and you're going to name it Hitbox. And what you're going to do is delete your gun, your arms, and just size down your character just by a little. So it could be like 2 pixels. If you see, this head is actually 30 by 30. And I made this like 29 by 29. And I'm going to make that 28 by 28. And I'm going to make that entirely black. So yeah, you guys can follow through there. And you're going to get switch costume to hitbox. And you're going to go to control, get an if statement. If not touching, we're going to make another sprite. We're going to name it wall. So this is going to be the wall of the level. And for now, since we don't have any ideas how we're going to make our level, we're just going to make the outer barrier for the levels. So what I'm going to do is kind of like that. Now what you see on the screen is just a big barrier I'm drawing, which will actually help us limit the arena. And that's good enough. So that is really good enough. And let's go to player. If not touching wall, then we'll be able to move. If we are, then obviously we won't be able to. And let's do if key W is pressed. No, that's V, so I'll select W is pressed. We're gonna go ahead and change our player Y by their speed. So that's pretty original, and you're gonna do the exact same for the rest. Except that for the S, which is the opposite direction, you're gonna add a times -1 with the speed. So kind of like that. Now if you see, that's actually pretty going good. So we're gonna duplicate that. And for the W one, we're gonna change that to D. And for the S, we're gonna change it to A. And remember, you have to change these to player X because DNA will represent the X values, not the Y values. Also, if you want to use the arrow keys, which I haven't explained right now because I'm going to use WASD keys. This basically, W goes to up arrow, S goes to down arrow, A goes to left arrow, and D goes to right arrow. So you guys can basically add OR and do if up arrow is pressed. So something like that. But I'm only going to do WASD, so if you guys want, then you guys can add it. And we'll get change scroll X by, we're going to actually make the camera kind of like smooth in to the player. So it's not going to be so like not smooth and it kind of feels bad, like it's so hard, stiff. So we're going to get a divide by 5, and you're going to get player X minus scroll X, which is basically just comparing the values. You're going to duplicate that. You're going to change this to scroll Y, player X to player Y, scroll X to scroll Y, and you're just going to drag that in. So that's actually good. And let's get a go to block. Go to, we're going to duplicate this player Y minus scroll Y. We're going to put it into Y. For the X, we're going to do the same. So duplicate the X and put that there. So basically now what's going to happen is we're going to get a point towards mouse pointer. And let's switch our costume back to our 0, which is basically our idle costume. Now if you see our map scrolling, even though it doesn't really look like it because of the background. And if you want to like actually scroll it, then you want to give some code in the sprite. So for our level walls, we need few more variables, which is the basic ones. We need my X for the sprite only, and my Y for the sprite only. If you're wondering why I'm adding underscores before them, is because I want them at the top because I want the variables to be separate between the for the all sprites variables and for the sprite variables. So let's go to events, get a when I receive setup, and then what we're gonna do is actually give this sprite another costume because we actually want to oversize this sprite, or else we can't use it as barrier. So let's name our second costume dot, and let's bring that to top. We're gonna zoom in, and then we're gonna give it a tiny little dot there. So what that's gonna do is actually gonna make us oversize the sprite. Well, first let's start coding, and I can explain that later. So you're gonna get 2 set variable blocks, which you're gonna say my X and my Y to 0, because we do want our map to be centered. And switch costume to dot, and we're gonna set size to something like 2000%, which is really, really big. But we do want our map to be big because it's not gonna be fun if not. And we obviously want to go to the back layer because we don't want our walls to be in front of the player or anything else. And let's get a show. And let's go ahead and clear graphic effects. So that's pretty good. And then let's get when I received. Actually, but before that, let's go back to our player because we forgot one more thing. We need a broadcast move level. Basically what that'll do is every frame the player's position will be updated like that. And according to the data of player's movement, we do want to scroll our walls too. So now what you're going to do is go to motion, get a go to block, operators, minus, and subtraction, which is same thing. And then you're going to get my x, my y at the first section of each subtraction, and scroll x for the my x, and scroll y for the my y. So basically that's it. Now we do want another sprite. Or what you could do is just, you can name this level, and you can draw your level. But it's not going to look cool because it's going to look like it's not scrolling. And if you want to know why that is because we can size our background. Background is background. So we're going to create another sprite, and you're going to name it level. And that's same as wall. What we're going to do is first I'm going to clear everything in here. And I'm going to outline with nothing, but fill it with a grass field. So it kind of looks good like that. And I'm going to make that centered, which doesn't really matter. And I'm going to go back to coding. Now, for the level, it's really, you can see it as it's exactly the same as the level wall. Because it's just literally displaying it like the same way. So you're going to create another sprite, name it dot, bring it to the front, and you're going to obviously zoom in, get the dot in the middle, and you're going to start coding again. So when I receive setup, set my x, let's create another variables, name it my x for the sprite only, underscore my y for the sprite only. So let's set my x, my y to 0 when I receive setup. And let's go and switch our costume to dot. And let's get set size block to 2000. And let's get a switch costume to costume 1. And again, a go to back layer. And you're going to show again and clear all the graphic effects. Now let me show you what's the real matter of this switch costume to dot is because you might want to know why you have to do that to oversize your sprite. And here's the thing. Scratch has size limits because they don't want their apps going crazy. And to prevent that, they really just depend on how it's doing it. And they're going to check every time we change our size and see if it's oversized. But they don't check when the costumes are switched. So that's the trick we're using. The smaller the costume is, the bigger the size you can really get. So here's the thing. If I were to have no switch costume dot, what's going to happen is my size is actually going to be 107 because they don't want their thing going crazy. Their size is actually 107. It's not 2000. So they do have size limits. But when we switch to dot, we can go crazy, make it 3000, and it's gonna do it because this sprite is small enough. And if you see, even 10,000 goes in. But we do not want that big value, so let's still keep it as 2000. So that is really just how you scroll your Battle Royale game. And let's actually give some grass scribbles on the map. Which I'm gonna get this, but a little bit darker color. And I'm gonna just scribble like that. That'll actually look good on the surface, which I don't see it right now somehow. Maybe the colors are the same. Yeah. So let's scribble it down, kind of like that. But what happens when we do that is actually it doesn't really look bad. Well, it does, but it looks so much better than just a plain background. What I'm actually going to do is just size down the player because it actually looks way too big. I'm going to make it 23 by 41. And that's going to look good. Also, if you were to change the player size, you want to remember to switch the hitbox's size because you want the collision good. So basically, that's it for how you scroll your levels and get started with your Battle Royale game. In the next episode, I'll be back with how to make your AIs on Scratch because in most cases, what we would usually do is make them look like they're fighting. So just kill messages. They really don't fight each other. And they only will shoot the player. But we don't want that. We want them fighting each other too. So in the next episode, I'll be back with those cool AIs. And thank you for watching till the end. And remember to hit that subscribe button and the like button. And see you in the next episode of Scratch Tutorials. Peace.